Greetings, traveller. What are you buying? Well, as it turns out, not buying so much. More of a what are you doing than anything. Well, it's time for another episode of Is Phil Going Mad and Wasting His Time? In what I would call a bit of an experiment, really. So this is to do with Nomad Sculpt and me basically trying to recreate all the brushes that I'd had in zBrush, which is the desktop software. Had quite a few niggles and things to work through, as in extracting them out of zBrush in the first place because they're not in the correct format for Nomad. So what I've had to do is open them in zBrush, export them as TIFFs, and then bring them into Photoshop, and then convert them in Photoshop into PNGs. And it took a long while, and finally managed to get it done. So there's about 97 of these. Managed to get them done. Everything from sort of little dents and cracks to bigger, broader strokes. And I'll show you the results. So this sort of thing looks kind of basic, but once you actually get it into Nomad, it can look quite good. Yeah, so this is the longest bit, actually creating a brush. So you can't just willy-nilly import the image, the alpha. There's more to it than that. So these are a list of all the ones that you get with Nomad, blah blah blah. I found these ones on a website and they are just really good. Yeah, so these were posted in 2015. Not that that's very important, but as you can see, there's some really good stuff here. Sort of bigger cracks, bigger marks, and then just general things like general concrete there, deeper cuts, marble based cracks, which are more like these things. So they're just really cool. And then general concrete texture like this and here. These are some examples of it sitting on things, which looks brilliant. And that's what I really want to do for my pillars on my building, basically, so that my archways look like quite old and natural. That's the idea anyway. So back to Nomad. This is the list of them here. There's 96 from the top left all the way down to here. You might notice some are black and some are white. The thing I'd done wrong when I exported them was I hadn't, basically one is inverted, the other one, right? So this is the normal one and this is inverted. Yeah, so an alpha's pretty clever. I don't know if you know about it, but you pick an alpha and it basically it gives you a free texture basically instead of having to carve something in. It's just already there to use. So the trick each time of doing it, what you saw was I just imported it. I need to change it to this mode because you can do it different modes. You paint with it in different modes. I was kind of freaking out at first because it took me hours and hours to export these, and then they came in with this big, stamp around the outside, like a kind of convex kind of lump, and I was like, oh, I've really fucked this up. But it's not really about that. It's just about picking the right brush mode, which is that one. Well, that is the correct mode, but then changing the fall off of the brush. So this sort of describes how intense the brush is from one end to the other, and you can get different kind of like sine waves, waveforms, or how they can look. If you pick the completely flat one, then you get everything flat. I'll show you the difference, just go for a few. Sometimes there's not much difference. You have to sort of pick the correct one that is good for the particular texture that you're using. So it's a little bit of, you have to use a little bit of judgment. Like if I was gonna, these ones here, where they're this entire texture across the whole square panel, it wouldn't be good to use, for instance, say the flat fall off, because then you would definitely see that border. So if you're just sort of trying to paint around the block and you're trying to create something that's concrete, you're going to get all this seams. So you want to be picking a different fall off for the brush that's a bit more subtle on the edges, so that so that you can blend things in a bit. Nomad's very clever. So if you look at this sort of this crack here, you can see it's sort of dented in on the surface a bit, which is what you want. And if you find that you've not imported it correctly, which a lot of these, this is the problem I'm saying, I brought them in like this, but they really need to be like this, inverted. So all I'm doing in that case is inverting it here. So here's the difference with it before and then with it inverted. And so you get the proper crack, just the crack, not the outside stuff. And you can see that's sort of projecting outwards a bit, which is not really what you want with a crack. So you just sub it, click sub, and it will go inverted, you know, dent into the surface rather than anything else. Just really, really cool. It's great when you get the result working. I think that's been about it. So, like 97 of these to do. I've done, yeah, about 20, 24. So a long ways to go. But hopefully, once we get there, the results should be really usable. My plan then is to bring in a model from, well, my building model from Blender on the desktop, and then create the archways in here. But I will have to bring in the source file from Blender because I need the scale to be correct. You know, whatever I paint on, it needs to. It's no good me spending hours painting on it in here and then taking it back to desktop and finding it's all completely out of scale. So that's sort of the method, really. Takes a long time, but we will get there.